For this episode of Theme Park History, we're taking a look at the granddaddy of all theme park attractions, Kongfrontation. Operating at Universal Studios Florida from opening day in June 1990 to September 2002, Kongfrontation was a masterpiece of themed attraction design, and its scale is still as impressive today, even if it's no longer with us. So sit back, relax, and grab yourself a King Kong-sized coffee as we explore the theme park history of Kongfrontation. When Universal were considering opening a theme park in Orlando way back in the 1980s, they knew that they had quite a task on their hands. Not only would they be playing in Disney's backyard, but they wouldn't have an attached large-scale working studio to anchor their proposed park. Unlike the original park, Universal Studios Hollywood. This made executives understandably nervous, so they turned to MCA Planning and Development, which is now Universal Creative, Universal's in-house team of theme park designers. The MCA team knew that in order to compete in the Orlando market, they would have to, in their words, out-Disney Disney. That meant multiplying the scale of the offerings at Universal Studios Hollywood, and bigger and better versions of the Hollywood Studio Tour's Jaws, King Kong, and earthquake effects demonstrations were planned. Instead of featuring as part of a tour, these attractions would need to stand on their own 2 feet, with enough scale to really wow visitors. While some of Universal Studios Florida's original attraction lineup may seem antiquated now, also worth noting that most of these attractions are gone, barring longtime park resident E.T. For the time, they were astronomical in both scale and ambition. Rides of this complexity were rarely seen around the world, and Universal went all in. With hefty price tags of up to $40 million apiece, the new park was anchored by Jaws, Earthquake the Big One, and its intended crown jewel, Kongfrontation, on opening day.
The antagonist we face in an adventure may not be human. It may be an element of nature, or a huge and terrifying creature whose origins are a product of nature gone awry, a horrifying piece of prehistory clashing with modern normalcy. The Beauty and the Beast story of King Kong terrified audiences in 1933 and again in the 1976 remake. But the nerve-snapping tension created by the sight of the giant ape breaking loose to devastate a city has been far surpassed. Kongfrontation is a colossal experience in terror.
Bringing King Kong to life would be no easy feat. However, Universal had a head start, as the studio tour in Hollywood already had a smaller version, King Kong Encounter. The attraction debuted in June 1986, and the studio tour tram would enter a soundstage featuring a recreation of Manhattan. As the tram rounded a corner, they were greeted by a 30-foot King Kong animatronic. Exploding helicopters, fire, and audio effects completed the experience. The Kong figure was designed by legendary Disney Imagineer Bob Gurr and received rave reviews when it debuted.
Late word just in. The path of destruction continues east, causing thousands to flee their homes. Police admit that they are powerless to stop the enraged beast. Military units are rushing to the scene. The beast was last sighted near the 200 block of Old Fulton Avenue. We now go to live coverage on the scene with our helicopter reporter, Kelly King. Kelly.
We're now hovering above the wreckage of a crushed L train. The helicopter beside us is searching for... Wait! There's a tram load of people down there. We've got to go down and warn them. Attention, people on the tram. You are in danger. Repeat, you are... What? No, we have to go down and help them. Behind us, where? I don't see them. No, where? Oh, my God! Ah!
The computer allows us to have complete accuracy in making sure all of the parts are going to fit exactly.
5 months of labor was required to build a 3-story tall steel framework of Kong. But it isn't enough to have an actor based on correct gorilla anatomy. He had to behave like a gorilla.
After the engineering drawings are made, we make this 1/12 size working model to demonstrate all of the motions of the figure.
An exact duplicate of the finished attraction was also an essential element.
This is a 1/24 scale model of the King Kong attraction, which we built so we can show the people who are constructing all the various parts, whether it be the elevated train car or the track or those facades beyond me here, exactly what we want in 3 dimensions. The other good thing about it is it helps us be able to get down there and look from the point of view of the audience, exactly what the audience is going to see, so we can design the show and really live the show right now before it's completely built.
Meanwhile, safety tests were conducted on other aspects of the show, such as the fires caused by a rampaging King Kong.
Given the popularity of King Kong Encounter, it made perfect sense to replicate this at Universal Studios Florida, although on a much bigger scale. MCA turned to the Totally Fun Company to help design the ride, and Kongfrontation would anchor the back of the park. Surrounded by its own New York section, the Kongfrontation show building would be 6 stories tall and cover 62,000 square feet of space. The concrete slabs used to build it are the largest ever used in construction. The show building was disguised by an elaborate facade, featuring a recreation of New York's Pennsylvania Station, as well as other Manhattan-style buildings. The attraction featured a unique ride system designed by Aerodynamics and Intermountain Lift Incorporated. Recreations of the trams from the Roosevelt Island Tramway would be suspended from the ceiling of the show building by a concertina-esque grapple. This would allow the trams to sway and move in time with the ride's show effects, and the trams could even be lowered all the way to the floor of the attraction. To recreate the 1970s era Lower East Side, 50 unique facades were constructed. These were incredibly detailed, anchoring guests in the moment and providing an elaborate atmosphere to the ride. The model helicopters in the ride were true to scale and were molded on real police helicopters, adding further authenticity. 2 King Kong figures were constructed for the attraction. The first, which would menace guests as they passed by a recreation of the Queensboro Bridge, weighed 8,000 pounds, and the second was even heavier at 13,000 pounds. Both figures were made to be analog and digital, which would allow a greater range of animatronic movement for the show designers. Perhaps the figure's most famous feature was the revolutionary Smell-It-Sir device. As both figures roared, guests would be able to smell bananas on their breath. The ride was an immediate smash hit. However, like sister attractions Earthquake the Big One and Jaws, it was plagued by massive technical issues upon opening. After a few weeks, park engineers managed to get the ride working reliably enough, and it was ready to fully take the crown as the premier attraction at Universal Studios Florida. Despite its popularity, Kongfrontation was an expensive and labor-intensive ride to operate and maintain. Breakdowns were fairly frequent, and keeping all the effects working together was a challenge.
Difficulties causing a brief delay in our normal operation. What we will do is go back to the station and do the show over again for you. We apologize for the delay.
At one point shortly after opening, park engineers reduced the King Kong figure's complexity of movement in order to make the ride more reliable. However, in 2002, just 12 years after the park opened, Universal announced that Kongfrontation would be closing. Park fans were in an uproar, and there were petitions and letter-writing campaigns to try and save the attraction. However, without much fanfare, Kongfrontation closed its doors on September 8, 2002. The show building was gutted, and in 2004, Revenge of the Mummy opened at the park as a replacement for Kong. Much speculation has abounded about what became of the ride's many elaborate interiors, as well as the King Kong figures themselves. Nobody knows for certain, but it's rumored that parts of the ride still exist inside Revenge of the Mummy's darkened show building. It's also been reported that the ride track is built into the show building's ceiling and remains in place. What did you think of Kongfrontation at Universal Studios Florida? Do you miss it? Let us know in the comments below. You can also check out more awesome theme park videos on this channel, so be sure to subscribe. Or you can visit us over at themeparkportal.com. See you next time, guys.